Hello, welcome to the Rooted Souls podcast. My name is Becca Spear and I will be your hostess. Here I am offering you talks on spirituality and self-development that bring you back down to earth. Bridging the gap between ethereal ideas and mindful realism. These talks illuminate the magic in the mundane and facilitate discernment in the far out for a life rooted in wisdom. This podcast is for conscious seekers who are just opening up to spirituality and personal growth, or those of you who've been on that journey for a while and you're realizing that things just are not what they seemed at first, or for those who are anywhere in between. I am so glad you're here. I invite you to either take a walk or sit down and relax with something nice and warm to drink and just let this wash over you. Take what resonates, leave the rest, and just know that this is my gift to you. I hope that it serves you. I am so glad you're here, and I hope that you enjoy the show. Today's episode is the dark side of divination and liberation through self-trust. I am so excited to welcome one of my closest friends, Alyssa. We met while she was living in Munich, Germany, but is now back in her hometown, snuggled in the mountains of Bulgaria. She is a huge enthusiast of cats, love, and truth. With a bachelor's in marketing and a master's in entrepreneurship, she is a never-ending seeker. Happily living with her partner, she wants to help single women find love and happiness for themselves and is finally starting her coaching career. Welcome, Elitsa. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, thank you, Becca. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited, a bit nervous, but also very excited to finally do it. We've been talking about it for so long.
Alyssa and I spent, I don't know how many countless hours on Zoom and the phone over the last couple of years. We met in a Facebook Messenger group from a common tarot card reader that we both found on YouTube. So we started getting to know each other over text and slowly started spending more and more time together over Zoom and realized that we were just kindred spirits. So things have changed a lot over the last 2 years. We were both in complete isolation and lockdown when we met, completely across oceans. I don't know how many thousands of miles away. But we've survived a couple moves that we both gone through and different relationships and have just maintained this virtual connection. We've actually never met, but I do consider you one of my closest friends.
Same here. Yeah. Same for me. You're one of my closest friends who knows a lot about me.
I do. We've shared so many things. I think part of it is the way that we connected, kind of autonomously. Right? It was just like over the internet and sharing common experiences that led us to this tarot card reader. Exactly. And I think that we both kind of stepped into our own psychic gifts to a whole nother level, having met this woman, but also having, just practiced with each other and other people as we were kind of dealing with so much free time being locked at home.
That's true. That's true. I think it's also kind of easier to connect with somebody, virtually because you're more open to it. You feel more vulnerable. You can always delete or block the person if something goes completely wrong. So I guess that was also something that brought us together. But definitely the lockdown was not easier. And I think we were searching for this connection with people, this love, group love, society, and respect and understanding. And I think also that was one of the reasons we connected. But I also think because we're soul sisters that we connected and found each other. I'm pretty sure someday we will meet in person.
Yeah, it's pretty intense how close we've been able to get without actually seeing each other face to face. I think one of the things that drew me to you and have kept me in your orbit is your huge heart. And It's amazing how you can feel such love for someone across a screen and across time and space. And it's that love that is such a complete opposite of our topic today, which is the dark side of divination and really a true lack of integrity in the new age spirituality realm of divination, tarot card readings, psychic readings, and how detrimental it can be for people, how scary it can be about how much people put their faith and life choices in the hands of strangers, and really the impact it can have on people's mental health and trust in themselves. So that's really the topic I'm looking forward to diving in with you today.
Sounds great. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Maybe it will get triggering for us or for somebody listening, but I think that's an important one. We should definitely talk about it.
So it is triggering. It's triggering for a multitude of reasons. One is, when people are in the state where they want a psychic reading, there's nothing you can do to convince them otherwise. People are in a pretty low state when they are reaching out to complete strangers to give them answers in their life. They may or may not be aware of the level of desperation that they're in, but it is true desperation that has people, really reaching so far outside of themselves for answers. What do you think for you had you reaching out for a tarot card reading?
Well, I was heartbroken and there was no closure. So I was desperately searching for answers. I think I was just going crazy in my mind, like replaying everything in my mind, like searching for an answer, like why didn't I get an answer? Why is this happening to me? So I started watching YouTube tarot readings, these general readings, and I felt drawn to a lot of them. Some of them were like, okay, that doesn't resonate at all. And I ended up, on her YouTube channel. And I think I booked a reading because I was like, okay, it's not a lot of money. Let's just dive into it. And yeah, I heard maybe the things I wanted to hear, and I was hooked. Slowly, I was hooked. So I was also dependent on her answers, and I was anxiously waiting for, when am I going to get my video reading? For God's sake, I want to hear the answers. I want to hear the messages from my beloved one. And that's very toxic.
Yeah, it is. And it's dangerous. And I had a common story as well. And I think most people that were coming to me when I was doing tarot card readings were heartbroken. There's nothing quite like being heartbroken, that kind of grief. It's a death. And what's so dangerous about especially consulting with very gifted psychics and tarot card readers is if they don't have integrity or trauma, if they're not trauma informed, or they don't really recognize the weight and responsibility of their gifts, they can really ruin people's lives. And of course, it's up to the client to take responsibility for their own life. But as a tarot card reader or a psychic, people are coming to you for help. And so I think one of the things we started to witness was the lack of integrity with this person, and starting to question how, recognizing that, what was keeping us looped in was that her predictions and her access to accurate detail was uncanny. She definitely was tapping in. And this is where it gets addictive and gets dangerous, because you start to trust this person because they're getting information psychically that there's no other way that they could get it. So you know that they're tapping into something. And because so much of it's true, you assume all of it's true. And then, you don't have access to that information yourself. So you need them for it. And then getting so familiar and satiated by psychic information, it can be very addictive, and it's a slippery slope.
I think we do have access to that information, to be honest. It just came into my mind. I think all of us could be psychic and mediums, and we all channel all the time. Maybe we just don't realize it. And I think we do have access to that information. But when you're heartbroken, your emotional state is so messed up. So you can't actually discern. You have these answers in you. You know what's happening. You have that information. You just can't access it because you're like, let's say it's quite foggy and you can't see it, but it's there. So these people, I don't want to say all of them take advantage of it, but some of them, they actually do. Some of them do believe that they help people, but that's very toxic what they're doing, because for me personally, it drove me more into my madness. I would call it madness, because I was like, okay, I can't let go of this relationship. And that was toxic. And I was constantly like hooked up. And I was constantly like, okay, thinking about that person and thinking, how can I get him back? And guess what? I was not supposed to get him back. There was a big lesson there. But it took me quite a lot of time to get over that relationship and to get over my expectation of that relationship, because it was actually that expectation. And the reassurance of that reader that this is my guy and this is like, I don't know, destiny that brought us together, and there is a purpose in that. And yes, there was, but this relationship was done, and that's it.
Well, I'm glad you corrected me around that. We all have access to it. I've been a professional psychic, and I definitely do have access to it. I think that, my dedication to being tuned into those things has ebbed and flowed. And one of the greatest gifts I received from being in relationship with this woman was recognizing the power I had as a tarot card reader, and the utmost responsibility that comes with it. And that I decided to stop reading tarot cards because I saw what could happen if the wrong thing were said, if the client wasn't in a healthy mindset. Really, there's so much risk to it. And my intention of working with people was to help them. And I started realizing very quickly that it was disempowering people by giving them predictions. What I wanted to do is educate them about their behavior and their coping mechanisms and their impulses and their drives, and help them become healthy, centered, empowered people. And predictions were not contributing to that. So at first I completely, I packed up all my cards. I stopped giving tarot card readings. It took me a while to recognize I could give readings in a way that educated people and inspired them and uplifted them, rather than kept them hooked into their fantasies. So, I found a way to give readings in a way that taught people about themselves. And I don't use cards very much today unless I'm inspired to or it's requested of me. I definitely spend a lot more time focusing on astrology or just trauma-informed coaching without any psychic information. Although we're always picking up on stuff, whether people recognize that's where it's coming from or not. But I just, recognize that the kind of conversations that ensue when somebody asks for what's going to happen are very rarely nourishing. They're very rarely something that helps people heal. And it does keep people hooked into the need to get a fix, need to know, and unfortunately keeps people in their pain longer. So I do have gratitude for that learning, because I don't know how long I would have been reading tarot cards for people in that manner. And, I think the beauty of any divination is that we can get more clarity in the moment. We can get more understanding of where we're at present. And that's what's the important part, not what's going to happen in the future, not what somebody else is doing, but help me understand more about myself right now.
I've also don't use my cards very often, but I use it mostly with me, and I'm still surprised how accurate the cards could be. So I do love divination, but it's exactly what you said. I would use it just for myself right now. I don't feel it using it with other people or reading for other people, and to pick up on what's happening right now, because I think the cards could really tell us or pinpoint to a direction, to a problem that's currently happening, but definitely not for predictions. No. I'm also now more into psychology and more learning about trauma and how our past, especially our childhood, hello, Mr. Freud, contributed to our current behaviors. And I find it fascinating. So maybe we are asking the wrong questions when we go to that tarot reader. We're asking what is going to happen. That's the wrong question. The question is, why did it happen, or why does it keep happening? Because we often fall into patterns. And how can I get out of that loop?
Well said. I think that a lot of people that end up in this realm, in this area, maybe never felt like they fit in, or maybe they were gifted and didn't understand their gifts. Mm-hmm. So they're drawn to this kind of psychic phenomena because they already naturally have it within themselves. And, you know, there's a vulnerability present when you don't feel like you belong. And so I think another theme that happens in these circles is ideas of star seeds or aliens, or you're one of the ascended few, or you're here to wake up the planet. And it gets so egocentric and so far from, you know, the true purpose of all of this. And I think part of what kept, you know, us in that community for the short time that we were involved was this camaraderie and this feeling of belonging, and that there were people all over the world that felt the way we did, all over the world that spoke the language we did, or were experiencing things that we were going through. And it's a delicate balance, because you can tip over this line, right? And then all of a sudden it's all about you, and you're creating your universe and your reality. And so far from, you know, what was your upbringing like? What are the triggers within you? What are the pieces that need, you know, are asking to be healed? How can you be more you and more present to this life we're living on this planet right now, and not what galaxy are you from, and what are you, you know, what aliens are you channeling? It really removes the potency of this life here and now, and keeps people looped into fantasy and fantastical thinking.
I think this is a coping mechanism, a way just to escape reality. There are many ways to escape reality, and there are a lot of, I would say, toxic thoughts and patterns in our spirituality, in spiritual community. And the one I really feel triggered is by positive vibes only. That one gets me every single time, because no. About the star seeds, I've also looked into that. I find it also quite interesting. I have my personal beliefs and feelings toward it, but it's a way to just escape reality. There are many spiritual teachers that say, oh no, you should escape the 3D to material, you should dissociate with it. No, we are here in this physical plane, and we should revel in it, we should live in it. That's it. That's a way to escape your current problems.
Spot on. Yeah. And it all comes back to the pain, right? The pain that has us looking for answers and wanting to feel high vibe all the time. And it's bypassing the human gift of growth and healing, and finding out who we truly are, and living a life aligned with, you know, really exactly what drives us, and what inspires us, and who we love, and what we can, you know, do to contribute to others around us in this life. And you know, the more fantasy about you are, you know, superior, or you have this huge role to play, or you know, you're not even from here, that's why you're suffering, you know, try to meditate and get to that other realm. You're right, it's all escapism, and kind of defeats the whole purpose of being a spiritual being in a human body on planet Earth today.
I just sort of, I think it was Neil Donald Walsh that was talking about purpose in one of his books, and said, well, the purpose is just of life is to be you. Just be you and live your life, and that's it. I mean, the purpose, now I see the purpose of life like to grow, to experience, to play, to play with life, to play with everything we have, to play with our creative powers, because I do believe we create our realities. But the whole spiritual and psychic and tarot reading community could be very, very toxic. And our society hasn't taught us how to deal with emotions, with the negative emotions, with the so-called negative emotions. And now I've realized that all emotions have their place, even anger, even misplaced anger. The other day I got angry about something. I knew that I was like, it was my mistake, that I got it wrong. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to let it out. And then I found out it was my mistake. It was like, okay, that anger, it's not in my body. It's just out. It's out there. And we have to be more responsible about our emotions, about teaching our kids and ourselves. I mean, I've taught myself emotional intelligence, I think, I don't know, with the age of 30, and I'm still learning it because I think it never stops. It's not something you don't visit a course, you don't go to a lecture and then you're done for life. There is place for all kinds of emotions. There are no positive and no negative emotions. These simply are human emotions, and we have to accept that. Everything else is just a rejection of our human nature and a projection of who we are. And I think that's why we also have all these sorts of trauma and trigger responses. And then we go to the places, we go outside of ourselves, because we are taught that the answers are not within, but they're without. Go talk to your teacher, to your parent, to your friend, to your therapist, or whatever. And there's nothing wrong to talking to people. It's just we always have to like check in with ourselves. Is this experience, is this information like true for me? And I think that's the most important part, to learn to talk to ourselves through meditation, maybe through journaling. It doesn't matter which way, just to start looking within and then checking all the time, checking in. Okay, am I okay with this one? Am I okay with this behavior? Am I okay with this conversation? Yes or no? That's it for me. Or this is my current stage of personal development.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the emotional intelligence, because this is a conversation about emotional maturity and spiritual maturity, and disappointment and letdown and anger is part of being a human being. And I think so much of it is refusing to sit with your disappointment, refusing to sit with rejection, refusing to sit with not getting your way. And yeah, all these fantasies of why you're going through hardship, or that it will turn around, instead of just being an emotionally mature person. I'm disappointed, I'm suffering, and working through that, sitting with that, being with that. And so you totally nailed it with the escapism. And so I'd say, let's talk about, how do you liberate yourself through self-trust? Recognizing that maybe as a listener, you have or have not had an experience like this. But if you're currently going through it, not making yourself wrong for being there, recognizing that maybe there's some more aspects within yourself and your choices to look at. We both went down this road. We're doing okay now. So there's benefit of all choices, right? We can learn from everything. What are some ways, Alyssa, that you found liberation through self-trust?
I think when people say I don't know what I want, or I don't know myself, the easiest way to look at it is to start small. What do I mean by that? You know how you like your coffee, your eggs, and this kind of stuff, or if you like running or swimming or whatever. So by realizing that you actually know what you want and what you like, who you are to some extent. When it comes to some practices, definitely meditation has helped me a lot. Guided meditations, or just sitting by myself and sometimes getting super irritated by all the thoughts, going through my head. But that's definitely a way. For me, a game changer was journaling, because I love writing, and the so-called automatic writing, where you just write, you don't think about it. There's also this technique, the morning pages. The moment you get up, you just have to write 3 pages. It doesn't matter what it's about. You just sit down and write. It's like a brain dump in the morning, and it works wonders, to be honest. For me, I think for women, it's very important to connect with our bodies, and we can do that in different ways. For me, it was yoga. Walking in nature, that's a big one. Swimming was also a big change for me, because water is very, I would say, opening. That's the only word that I come up with water. It's opening and liberating. And it could be any artistic way, like drawing, painting, dancing. Again, for women, moving the body in very flowy and feminine way, it's very powerful. For me personally, it was also singing. I started my vocal coaching, not because I want to become the next Beyonce or anything, but because for me, it's, first of all, it's every single time. I've been doing it for a year and a half, and every single time it still gets me out of my comfort zone, and it pushes me to be more present, or to claim my spot, to claim the stage, so to speak, to allow myself to be loud, to allow myself to express my voice, sometimes to scream, to allow myself to screw it up or not get it right every single time. And I think there are different ways for different people. Sometimes you just can find yourself maybe even through cooking, if that's your thing. I think the best way is to try different things and see what works for you. And just, if it doesn't feel right, just do the next thing. Just don't overanalyze it. Why it didn't work? Who cares? It's not your thing. Do the next thing. And step by step, you're going to go back to yourself.
And I love how every example you mentioned was an act of self-care. It all comes back to taking care of yourself, getting to know yourself. And you mentioned the morning pages. My last guest in the Creativity as a Catalyst for our individual and collective healing, she also recommended the morning pages in the artist way. So if you guys haven't checked out that book yet, definitely check it out. You touched on, topics from a few of my podcast episodes, the power of nature and the power of music, that being able to express ourselves and engage with our environment helps us to gain a sense of self and to establish ways to feel healthy and present in our body, whether it's expression or receiving from the environment. So all of those examples were beautiful. I don't think I have anything much else to add. Swimming and being outdoors are the two of my biggest pieces.
I know.
I know, you probably saw me grinning when you were saying that.
Yeah.
And so what you're putting in your body and on your body, what you're surrounding your body in, and how you're being in your body, really, I think it really comes down to all of that, right? So whether it's dancing or weightlifting or swimming or yoga or
all
of it, right? And of course, what you're eating, what you're adorning your body with, what you're, whatever products you're using, all of it impacts how you feel, right? And it comes back down to the nervous system, to our early childhood development, to working through any trauma we have been through over the years of our life on this planet or previous. But it comes down to personal responsibility, doesn't it?
Yeah, I am a huge fan of personal responsibility, but with freedom comes personal responsibility. That's what people should be aware of when we talk about freedom, because I'm a big freedom lover. You know me, I'm a Sagittarius, so that's my thing. But with freedom comes responsibility, and we should be aware of our choices, what the consequences of our choices are, and we should be okay with it. Let's say if I stay in tonight because I feel like it, I might disappoint my friends, but that's their problem. That's not my problem. That's a very simple explanation of what it means to own yourself and own your choices and how you handle yourself. At some point, they'll get used to it, I think.
Well, and you just reminded me of just such a common relational issue with emotional immaturity is codependence, and learning healthy boundaries, how to express yourself, how to understand yourself. And for me, one of the tools I'm most excited about lately, as you know, is astrology, to use it as a tool to really understand the more complex dynamics in your psyche and your behavior that you might not really have words for. Because as we start to get more self-aware, whether it's through trial and error with self-care and expression, or working with a coach or therapist to really understand why you tick, how you tick, through trial and error, we can really see what works, how we work. And part of the emotional maturity and emotional intelligence is how you navigate being in relationship with others. So all of these pieces matter so much. And as I mentioned, Alyssa is practicing coach, getting started with working with single women. And I work with men and women around more spiritual awareness and getting to know thyself. So if anybody has any questions for either one of us, I'm going to link Alytsa's information in the episode description. If we touched on any tender notes, please know that we're compassionate to that. Please reach out if you have any questions or comments. And Alyssa, it's been such a pleasure to get to hang out with you today and
all
have
mine.
this conversation. All right. I love you so much, Alyssa. Sending love out to the listeners.
Yeah. Have a great day. Have a great evening wherever you are, and chill.
Thanks, Alyssa. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you for listening and becoming part of this community. If you loved this episode, I invite you to subscribe, share with someone you think would appreciate it, or leave a review. This helps me to learn what resonates with you so I can deliver more of what you want and reach more people who can benefit from this content. If you want to reach me, please feel free to reach out on my website, www.beccaspirit.com. I would love to hear from you, get any feedback, and know what's on your mind. Until next time, take great care.